Good evening, Board President Doherty, board members, superintendent, cabinet, and audience members. It's a sad day when you have to convene to close schools. And this is nothing for anybody to be making snarky remarks about or anything else. Obviously, I am one of you and no more important or anything. But if you think that any educator, whether it is a classroom teacher, a psychologist, a nurse, a speech language pathologist, let me extend that, a custodian, a secretary, a department director, a bus driver, anyone who has dedicated their lives to our children and people in education, board members. If anybody thinks that this is a day to score points, politically, or on the backs of our children, I want to call you out now. Tonight is not the time. I stand before you today as a high school teacher. I'm out of the classroom right now, but I still keep in contact with the students that I had in the classroom as a senior teacher. I regularly still counsel the kids that are now adults, and I still give money each semester to many of my kids that are now in college and cannot afford their books or the ability to eat. That is the heart that I brought with me when I became president of the Hacienda La Puente Teachers Association. As I speak tonight, I want to make it clear, I am not here as a union leader. I am first here as a human being. I am here as a teacher. I am here as a member of the community. I am here as what I would consider a pseudo-parent. And so I hope you understand that as I speak, I am speaking from the heart, and I hope anybody that comes to this mic does the same. HLPTA has been proud to work with the district leaders, whether it's been our superintendent or our cabinet or our board members, including our fellow association leaders. We have followed the guidance from the CDC, from the Public Health Department, as well as talking to other districts, seeing what are all the options. But there comes a time when we need to step outside of ourselves and become accountable to the decisions that we have been empowered to make. I am in fear of the health and safety of our students and our members. Understand that our members are spouses, their parents, their children, they're people who take care of their parents. We've already asked them to be on the front lines as shootings take place. We've asked them to deal with every trauma in the world. We've asked them to maintain as professionals as this country and the world deal with the pandemic that we have never seen. At what point do we step up and do the right thing by our students and our members? I know our members can work remotely. I know our members are professionals and could work on deep planning. I know that the joke in education is every time educators get together, they're talking about their students. I know that they will continue doing what's right to make sure they are prepared to offer the best education to our kids, especially when we come back. But we must prioritize the health and safety of our students and our staff. We see how hard it is. I watched everybody here in the room today. So many people haven't seen each other in a while. There's hugs, there's kisses, there's handshakes. I've heard people say, I'm not afraid to get this. Ladies and gentlemen, that's the problem. We are living in a world, in a country where we haven't had to deal with this. And we are willing to risk people's lives. And tonight, I'm up here on behalf of my members to say, HLPTA is very clear. We will not risk our members' lives. We will not risk our students' lives. You know, Italy has had tremendous suffering and suffered tremendous death. And they've had to institute policies of separation just to try and slow the pandemic down. We have seen tonight an example of adults who can't even do that. This is not a knock on anyone. It's hard for me to not hug my mom a lot. But my mom's 70 years old, and I always have to ask myself, am I willing not to hug her today so that I can hug her tomorrow? We have students and I have members who have weak immune systems. I have members who survived cancer and even through that have maintained being professionals, coming to work every day, even during this pandemic, even in fear. We have students who have weakened immune systems. It's time that as leaders, we step up and do the right thing. In an article dated March 11th, when should schools close for coronavirus? From NPR. A Yale University sociologist and physician said, if you wait for the case to occur in your school, you still have wound up closing the school. But now you've missed the opportunity to have the real benefit that would have accrued had you closed the school earlier. You have all done your best to keep the school open. Every school open, even exploring when one school might need to be shut down, but not all schools. I've had conversations separately with each of you about your heart and your concern about our students in our communities that are going to have trouble getting food, may not have shelter, may need mental health. But let this be a lesson to our community. We have allowed our schools to become a place where every ill in society is meant to be taken care of. Shame on all of us, and don't try and put it on the backs of educators anymore. If you want to do something about it, we have several weeks. I've said that at every board meeting. Join me and gather signatures for schools and communities first. $12.8 million for just this district alone every year. Over $8 million for our communities. And where are our city leaders? City of Industry is one of the richest cities around. Where are they? Why aren't they offering to pay for daycare? Where's the La Puente City Council? I see a lot of people that attend our schools, take pictures with our kids and our staff. Where are they? La Puente today, very quickly, like that, decided to close their Tiny Tots, their senior center, their Boys and Girls Club. And yet what? We're supposed to still have 40 kids in a classroom in a small space every day. Hundreds, if not over 1,000 kids on a campus every day. Snarky comments at this time. People trying to score political points. I'll join you. Let's take the action and go to where the people who should be making other decisions should be. But I guarantee you, no one will ask me, hey, where do I sign? No one will follow up and say, when do we call them out? Who do we email? So for now, I speak on behalf of my members and I say, we're done. It's time that we make sure that we take care of our human capital. Another quote that I'd like to say from the article is, if schools have to close for a while, superintendents want to be sure learning doesn't entirely stop. But educators have a legal obligation to make sure whatever education they do offer works for every child. There are a lot of people that are going to give their opinions in terms of what should be done during this period. I'm going to remind you, there are only a few people in their roles that are in the classroom differentiating instruction every single day. You cannot give me a classroom of 40 kids with behavioral issues, emotional issues, different learning abilities and disabilities, and expect a one-size-fit-all to work. That is checking off the boxes. Can you force it? Sure. But will the educators who have the professional experience and the credibility behind them sign off on it? No. So it's going to take work over the days, over the weeks. Quote, those are paramount questions for our schools. And if they can't deliver that when they choose to jump to an online model, it's unlikely they're providing a legal basis for an equitable education. Let's not fool ourselves that by throwing a digital tablet or laptop in front of a student that we are providing them an education. Quote, having laptops and Wi-Fi routers to loan out doesn't solve every equity problem. A growing body of evidence suggests that online learning works least well for our most vulnerable learners. So he's recommending that public schools make up the days in other ways. That's what teachers are good for. That's what we do. I'm sure everyone in here that works for the district is familiar with the internet going down.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
Which time?
But we problem solve. Power goes out. We problem solve. I know my fellow leaders of the associations will speak for their members, but I can tell you, we problem solve. So leave it up to the professionals to determine how to best continue to educate our kids. Please don't give in to random political pressure or random opinions from people who are not the ones whose job in it. Don't ask me the best way to put out a fire. Ask a fireman. Don't ask me to heal you. Ask a doctor. If you want to know how to continue to educate the kids, ask a teacher. Ask a speech-language pathologist. Ask a psychologist to assist with what our kids will be going through. I do want the community to know that this is not a rash decision. I've seen stuff posted online, and those are lies from anybody that says that all of a sudden this decision has just been made randomly. People have been doing their jobs every single day, and on top of that, trying to prepare for all potential situations. And it is important that we understand that we've reached this point not because anybody wanted to, but we now feel obligated to. That's what leadership is. Unionism is not about some bully pulpit. It's about the collective working together, but not doing for others what they can do for themselves. I've heard at many board meetings of everything we're supposed to be doing for everybody else, but people need to read the information. People need to stop posting comments and jokes online about this virus. People need to stop listening to false information and caring more about jokes about toilet paper and everything else, and then getting up here and acting like they care about this stuff. Read the articles. Educate yourselves. Get out there and do something to assist. If, for some reason, we do need extra programs or help with our students and our families, then group up. My family runs a nonprofit called Abrazad in Westminster that I talk about. My brother runs behavior supports for adult kids. I say kids, but they're adults now that have emotional or physical disabilities to where they're either under guardianship and they need help either for an hour or for 24 hours. And they're all having to make decisions. We talk about how great America is. And I believe America is amazing. It's especially as a government teacher. But what makes us great, what makes us amazing, is how we come together. So if in a time like this people look to score points, shame on you. It is time for us all to gather together, protect our kids, protect each other, and plan like adults of how to move forward. Anybody who just wants to be negative, make negative comments, post negative things, and then walk away and post your 30-second clip, shame on you. Everybody else, like the educators, bus drivers, secretaries, and people I know, if you're like us, join us and actually be there for the kids and the community. This is very, very serious. And we are blessed tonight to be here talking about school closures and not about deaths. And let that sink in, because it may not be too long until we are here talking about that. I hope you all remain safe and healthy. I really do appreciate the time the board has given. Annie, you've been amazing. Judy and the cabinet and the directors to start to put this stuff together, and Cynthia's been working overtime, pedaling fast. It takes everyone, and I promise you that we've been working as best as we can, but remember, I'm not an expert, I'm not a scientist, I'm a teacher. Thank you.